mistake that people make when they're looking to hire someone for their company is that they want to look out into the labor market, and they want to find someone who's an experienced painter, who knows how to spray, who's got a great attitude, who's got their own reliable transportation, who has a clean criminal record, who doesn't smoke, who shows up on time, and who always smiles. And that person has a company already, and they run their own company. So what you need to do is you need to figure out of all of those things that you said, which ones are the easiest for you to input that skill into someone.
When your leads are low and your sales are slow, who you gonna call? Brushbuster. Scaling up the game. Big projects, friend.
What's up, everyone? Mike and Chris here with the Painter Growth Podcast, here for another round of Brush Busters. Chris coming back. Favorite time of the week, isn't it?
Oh, dude, thank you for having me back. I love it. This is the good stuff. This is the spice of the week.
Answer some more questions. We're going to have some fun. I'm in kind of like a goofy mood right now, so hopefully we get some good stuff out of me. Definitely going to get some good stuff out of you. I mean, it's got a lot of good stuff to say, so
let's do it.
Cool. So Miss Claudia, our lovely podcast manager.
Best podcast manager in the game.
Definitely the best one that I know. Don't know any other podcast managers, but that doesn't say anything about Claudia. Cool. So starting off with the 7th letter that we have here. Okay, cool. Let me, you want to read the first one? You want me to? Do you have the doc up? You do.
I'm ready. All right.
Tag
me in, coach.
Let me read this first one and let's see what's going on.
Okay.
So I'm going into all of these letters dry. I haven't initially read them or anything like that. I like to read them ahead of time, but I didn't this time. So, hey, coaches at Painter Growth, hope you're doing well. Recently, I've encountered situations where clients have very specific preferences or unexpected feedback midway through a project. How do you recommend handling these moments without compromising the quality of our work? Are there strategies or communication techniques you found effective in smoothing out misunderstanding and ensuring client satisfaction? Looking forward to hearing your experiences. Also from Chris from Toronto. So it's really about managing client expectations and getting feedback. What do you think? Where does your mind go there, Chris?
Well, the first thing I think is the best way to handle a problem is before it happens.
An ounce of prevention better than a pound of cure?
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
So like what kind of job walks are you doing ahead of time? Right. That's the number one thing you can do to eliminate these sorts of things ahead of time. You, your crew lead, the client, you walk the job at the beginning, you spell out exactly what you're going to do and why. That's going to cut down on 80 to 90 to 95% of miscommunications or misaligned expectations right off the bat.
Oh, even simpler than that. Do you have an inclusions list and an exclusions list? Did you tell them what you're painting, what you're not painting, right? Nothing worse than getting halfway done the project or all the way done the project and then them wondering why you didn't paint their trim. So, well, you thought this price included trim?
Right. Yeah. Section 1 of the bid, include. Section 2, exclude. And then everything after that.
Yeah. But then everything after that, let's dive into that for a minute. Because that's when we're talking product, you're talking process, you're talking how many coats you're doing, you're talking communication schedule, arrival times, departure times.
Payment schedule. If it's a big enough job, you're going to need a progress payment. You want to talk about that ahead of time. You don't want to ask sheepishly like, oh, hey, this is going longer than I thought. Can you give us some money?
Also, having clients sign off on colors. I don't know if you ever had a client like halfway through the project, like, ooh, I don't like this color anymore. I didn't actually agree to it. It's like, yeah, you did verbally. But okay, did you sign off on it?
I mean, I think there's two types of errors, right? There's like blatant, and then there's like not blatant, but just like sneaky. And you're talking about blatant ones, right? Like it's on the paperwork. Yes, no. I get the sense from Chris in Toronto, he's talking more about the sneaky ones. where he has everything spelled out on the bid and he thought we were all good to go, but somehow the customer still thought, you know, this was trim and that wasn't trim or whatever, like miscommunication, right? Because sometimes customers will be sneaky. Most of the time, customers just literally don't know what they're talking about, right? And so it's like really important to explicitly state everything. But then there's that, the next level of that is like in the field, really double check and make sure. Don't assume that the paperwork has everything or the customer communicated everything clearly 6 months ago when you booked the job or whatever, right? Like train your guys to make sure that they're doing that checking in, and also on like a day-to-day basis, right? Like every day, you should either your crew lead or you at the end of the day should be like, hey, we're leaving for the day. This is what we did today. Any questions, any concerns? You can nip stuff in the bud really quick. And they're like, hey, what happened here? Like, oh, well, we did this because that and da-da-da. And they're like, oh, okay, great. Have a good day. See you tomorrow.
Like a daily check-in.
Yeah.
Start of day check-in, end of day check-in. It doesn't have to be the owner too. It can be a painter, right?
It can be the crew lead. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. There's like two different types of these situations, right? And
I would also say that like most clients mean well. Like probably like 97% of clients mean well. And like if there is like an error, it's an error of like omission or accident. It's not trying to be sneaky, or I think deceptive is the word you might be looking for. Like most clients, I don't think, maybe 3 in 100 are actively try to be deceptive and get your team to paint something that, you know, they didn't, that wasn't initially part of the scope. And that's when like maybe that's what Chris here is talking about. But I think for the most part, clients are good and honest. And if you actively communicate well and proactively with them, you should be able to prevent most issues.
Yeah, that's what I was saying when I kind of casually said like most clients don't know what they're talking about. Not because they don't mean any sort of negative, right? They just literally don't know what's possible or what's realistic or what's included. You need to be clear with them about that.
Oh man, this one time, this was an error on my end, but before I was having clients sign off on colors, it's not even just signing off on colors so that your clients are okay with it, but it's also so your team knows what the colors are. We were painting this like 3-story Victorian house. It was like one of those, you know, centennial homes, 100-year-old home. You know what they are, like the tall 3-story wooden siding with the wooden trim and every shutters and all that stuff.
Decorative, intricate trim.
Yeah, beautiful house, right? Really nice. Anyway, needed a lot of work, and we prepped it and primed it and painted it. 2 full coats of white, all white. It's beautiful. It's so clean, crisp, like a big pillow in the sky. And and I go to meet the homeowner there on the last day of the work. We're like rolling up sprayers and cleaning up and all this stuff. And I show up at the same time as the homeowner, and we walk up to it and we're looking at it, cross our arms, look up at the house, and he goes, "That sure is a lot of primer." I'm like, what do you mean? We're done. This is 2 coats of paint. He's like, no, this isn't the color we agreed on. We're going to do white siding and then no, it wasn't even white siding. It was 3 different tones of brown. So like beige siding, a darker brown trim, and even darker brown shutters, like these 3-tone browns that he had like a professional designer pick out. And I was just like, oh, crap, no way. And so I'm like, I did the math quick. I'm like, any way you want to do like a 20% discount just to keep it white? He's like, no.
Oh
But
man.
2 crews there. So that crew and then another crew. We had 2 sprayers, 3 guns going. We had like 4 other people back rolling and brushing. And so for the next 2 days, we just ground it out and repainted with these 3 brown colors. It looked
brown over white is like how many coats, right?
It looked so good after. Like I know why he chose those colors. It looked so beautiful because it was like professionally picked out. But anyway, we didn't have a contract with the colors signed off on, and that was the last time that I had ever done that.
It only takes one bad one, right? I have a story on the flip side of that. We had a house in a really affluent neighborhood, really great customer. She's moving in this new house, and she wanted to paint the whole outside, whole inside. So we paint the whole outside. We get done with all the trim, the body sprayed out. We do all the trim. We pull all the plastic, everything. No touch-ups. Looks great. She gets there and she's like, yeah, it looks really great and all, but I want to change the colors. But luckily, we had it signed off, totally clearly, right? So I just charged her again. I mean, this lady had too much money, right? Yeah. But I was able to charge her again, and I made even better profit margin that time because I didn't have to do all the prep, just had to mask it again, right?
Yeah.
No more scraping and priming. So yeah, it's super important, right? To just like over communicate on those things. nip those things in the bud. That's why I say the simple way to think of it is the best way to solve a problem is before it comes up.
Now I'm
Once
gonna just
it's just damage control. Like how much can you save the relationship? How much is it going to cost you? You're already at kind of effed by the time the problem happens. It's way better and cheaper and more, Mike, you always talk about ROI, right? Way better ROI for time spent on avoiding the problem in the first place.
now this is all fine and dandy, us chatting at our desks about, errors past. But today, on the field, when you're going around, you're running a million miles an hour, you got 3-4 jobs on the go, you got a dozen jobs lined up. It's easier for mistakes to happen, right? And so I think the fix isn't just having inclusions, exclusions list on your contract or like making sure you communicate well, but it's like, what are the checks and balances that you do have in your business? What are the systems that you have set up for communication and processes that you have for you and your team and your automations and stuff that you follow to make sure that those things don't happen, to hold yourself accountable? Because like I know personally, if I'm left to remember something and it's not on my calendar, I don't have it a note, and I just like have to remember something for like 3 days, I'm not gonna remember it. It's just my mind. I have too many things that I'm thinking about. So like, what are the systems that you're using to prevent any of that from happening? And literally it can be like reminders that you set on your phone to remind yourself of these things. But like ideally it's some sort of like ongoing infrastructural system that prevents those mistakes from happening in the future.
Checklists.
It's like a pilot.
Job start checklist, daily check-in checklist, job finish checklist. Absolutely. Those sorts of things. But I think also, Mike, we're not really talking about like, okay, that's all great. We're here. Something got screwed up. Now, how do I fix it? Right. And I think the hardest thing for a lot of people is that you have to embrace the tough conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
the mistake has already been made. You're in a compromised position, or that their expectations are out of whack, or you actively made a mistake and they're upset about something. And like, by the time you're there, right, the mistake's already been made, or the underbidding has already happened, or the overpromising has already happened, right? So you need to collect yourself, right? But then you got to be straight with them. I have seen way more people have way more success over the years being like, hey, Mrs. and Mr. Homeowner, Joe, Sally, here's what happened. This is where I think we went off the rails. This is what I want to do to fix it. Can we partner together on this, right? Because if you approach it as like a partnering and you own what your part of it was, some customers will even pay for extra things or give you at least some of that cost back, so you're not just eating, right? But their reaction is gonna be based a lot on how mature you are in dealing with it. If you're the contractor who is like, oh, I don't want to call you, I don't want to talk about it, then it's gonna be weird, right? Or if you're like, hey, you guys have to pay all, if you get combative and angry, right, then they're gonna be. But if you can own your part of something, like, hey, it looks like we're misaligned here. I'm really sorry. This is what I thought. What did you think? Okay, how can we move forward? Because I'm a quality contractor. I care about doing a good job. We're in 2 different places right now, and what can we do to get in the same place? And maybe it's going to cost you some money sometimes, but that's going to make you so much more money and happiness and positive brand and positive experience over the long haul.
Yeah.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. I think that's what a podcast is kind of like a soapbox. Yeah. So systems for one, checklist is huge. Have a checklist of your checklists. And then, I just blanked. What was the whole topic that you just went on?
Oh, just like you got to approach a tough conversation.
Critical conversations. That was it. Critical conversations. There's actually a book on that. I think it's called like Critical Conversations, and it's like how to approach those tough conversations. It's like, have you ever heard the phrase, if you have to eat a frog, eat it in the morning?
Yeah. Eat that frog. That's the whole book. Eat the frog first thing in the morning.
Yeah. That's a good
and then you
one.
don't have to eat a frog for the rest of the day. The frog has already been eaten.
Yeah.
So the sooner you get, like I've had customers where like, oh yeah, this is, you think this and I think that, and this is like a multi-$1,000 difference, right? But the longer it sits and stews, the worse it gets. So, I'm going back to this letter. Chris in Toronto, I hear you. It can be uncomfortable, right? And sometimes you're going to have to take a loss to do quality work if there's some sort of miss on your part or your company's part. But I think most people are pretty reasonable if you're honest and direct with them and you own your part of it.
Awesome. I'm really excited for this next letter.
All right. Do I get to read one now, or is it still you?
Yeah, you can read this one too. Number 8.
All right. Hey, coaches. One of the challenges I've been facing is building and managing a reliable team for my painting business. Finding skilled painters who align with our company values and work ethic feels like searching for a needle in a haystack. I'm eager to learn from your experiences and insights into effective team building and management strategies. Your advice will be invaluable as I strive to grow and sustain my business. Appreciate your guidance. Best regards. Oh no, blank. Okay. Well, blank. I think this is a great question. It's something that affects every business. Mike, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I love this. And 2 years ago, or even 18 months ago, like in the tail end of COVID, the hiring situation and the labor market was so different than it is right now. Like back then, it was like we're in this like labor shortage crisis. We're still low interest rates. There's tons of money in the economy. Nobody wants to work. We got this huge labor shortage. And now, like 18 months later, it has completely flipped where interest rates have gone up. Most companies have stopped hiring. There's been enormous layoffs. And there's actually an oversupply of qualified labor in the marketplace. But so there's a lot of people you could hire. But I think a big issue that most people do, a mistake that people make when they're looking to hire someone for their company, is that they want to look out into the labor market and they want to find someone who's an experienced painter, who knows how to spray, who's got a great attitude, who's got their own reliable transportation, who has a clean criminal record, who doesn't smoke, who shows up on time, and who always smiles. And that person has a company already, and they run their own company. So what you need to do is you need to figure out of all of those things that you said, which ones are the easiest for you to input that skill into someone. Can you train someone? Can you train someone's customer service? Can you train someone's ability to have a truck? Can you train someone's ability to have a criminal record? Can you train someone's ability to paint? Probably. Painting is probably the easiest thing. So don't look for a painter. Don't hire a. Oh yeah, and on top of it, they want to pay that person $23.50 an hour. So don't look for a painter. Look for someone who's got the right attitude, who wants to learn, who wants to work, who's hungry to make money, who seems reliable, who's makes you feel good when you talk to them, and then teach them how to paint. Painting's not that hard, especially house painting. Like, yes, cabinets, finishes, whatever, lacquers, stains, that stuff gets pretty tricky. House painting, not that hard. You can teach it in a couple weeks.
Right. I love that. I totally agree with that, which doesn't make for great podcast content, but
challenge me.
Well, in addition to that, it's like we're job creators, right? We're creating jobs, and so like for me, I feel like almost like not more valuable, but maybe more of like a paycheck back to myself, right? When I like hire someone, I train them in something, I give them a skill they didn't have otherwise, and help them develop and move up in life, right? Like you could hire a young person to your business who starts as like a grunt, and they're like masking windows and moving ladders, right? And then they learn how to spray, and then they start making money, and then they're running a crew. And then, somewhere 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the line, all of a sudden they're buying a house and they're getting married, and they're like, hey, thanks for my career. You're like, what? Whoa.
Yeah.
Like talk about team building, right? If you're someone who has values that are like really important to you and you want to have a team that you're connected with, I would like embrace development. I think that's the flip side of what you're talking about, Mike, is a lot of people are like scared to do the training and the development. But if you want to build a sustainable, connected team from the ground up, that's the best way to do it, is find the raw ingredients and then you cook the stew.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that an important. Hang on.
Not that you can't hire some experienced people, right? You can have experienced people, no problem, especially if they're cultural fits and value fits. But like,
yeah,
don't shy away from also bringing in the new ones.
Yeah, I really like that concept, building your team. Like Jesse, for example, one of our other coaches here, he hired a guy as I think a door-to-door guy, and then he became a painter, and then he became a job site manager, and then he became a crew lead, and then he became a production manager, and then he became a general manager. He started as a door-to-door guy.
Right.
Like that is the path that somebody can potentially take if you have that opportunity. So if you focus on development. So for the people listening to this podcast, you obviously want to grow your company, right? We talk about that a lot. You're not just here to run a one-man show. You want to grow. And
Painter
so
growth. Hashtag.
oh, exactly. So shifting from being a painter to being a people developer. So if all you're doing all day, eventually in your business, is just developing your people, training your painters, working with your sales rep, helping out your production manager, working with your admin, you're working on your, with your door-to-door teams or your marketers, like you're just developing your people. That's like the quintessential small business. That's where you want to get to. In my opinion. I mean, that's a really good spot to be.
Yeah, totally. Well, and also it's like, it's not as hard as you think, right? People make it to be like this big hard thing. It's just like anything else. You can do it, but don't shy away from it. No, there's no mystery. It's just like like a person starts in sales, right? And they're like, oh, how do I get good at sales? Well, you're gonna start door knocking, and you're gonna start trying like the hard way, and you're gonna take these steps, and eventually one day you'll be a killer salesperson. Same thing with like being a trainer or a coach. That's something that we can help with. Is like, how do I coach these people? And then how do I incentivize them? That's another thing. If you're building a team, whether you're hiring people, subcontractors, building from the ground up, I don't care who it is. If you want to have a team that's invested, you have to align your incentives with their incentives.
Pay for the outcome.
Whatever. Yeah, you got to bonus and incentivize the things that you're aiming to create, right? You got to make sure that they have bonuses that are meaningful to them. I don't care who you are.
Pay them hourly, they're just going to want to work hourly. They won't want to work anything more than that.
Right. And everyone loves to have an opportunity to earn more money. Everyone loves to have an opportunity to get a bonus. Everyone wants to have something to work for, right? Just like all of us, we want to run our own business because if we do a great job, we make higher profit. It's the same thing. They want to have the same opportunity. So give them those opportunities and align those incentives. Don't be stingy about it. Come on, guys. You know who I'm talking to.
I mean, also, there was like some study by Harvard Business Review or something. I'm just going to make this all up because I heard it once and I don't know who did it or the exact words, but you'll get it.
Is this like an AI dream? Are you having a dream right
now? Yeah. Is this a simulation? It was on how they surveyed like all these employees and like actual compensation, like money was like the third most important thing that people want. Like people want fulfillment, like they want a job where they feel like they're making a difference, and then they want community, they want employees and coworkers that they enjoy being with, and then they want a good compensation plan that motivates them in the right direction. So you can create those three things. Like you can actually pay people less if you have a great work environment and good development program and an awesome team and community that they get to be a part of.
Sure. Right. So yeah, create what environment are you creating for your team as a business owner? That's the thing to think about there. If you're struggling, right? It's like, well, what environment have you created previously? Like look in the mirror. You can talk to your coach about it, like have an honest conversation. And then separately, what do you want to create, right? And start doing those things that create that environment. And when you have that environment, people will come. It's like Field of Dreams, right? If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
The workers are out there. We have so much data that the workers are out there. So
they're out there.
Yeah. So we know that. That's a fact. The salmon are swimming in the stream. Yeah. Right? Is that like a Canadian thing, right? There's bears and stuff, right? They get the salmon.
That's the West Coast thing. You're up there.
West Coast. Okay. Well, there's plenty of fish in the sea or the stream or whatever, right? So you as a business owner,
a trout in the lake.
Yeah, all of it. So many fish and so many aquatic bodies. It's the labor market right now.
Yeah, except there's not a lot of octopus left around Japan. I think they fished them all out.
Too real.
Anyway. Okay. The one last thing that I want to add to this is how a lot of the time small business owners, when you're small, you're like by yourself, you got one or two helpers, maybe bring in a couple of subs every now and then. The thought of getting to that position where you're off the tools and you have like 5 to 10 painters, it sounds like a really big jump. It sounds like it's something that's so far away that might take like, oh, maybe next year I can be there, or maybe in 2 years I can be there. But like literally with the right couple of moves, that can happen in 2 months. Like we recently had a client. He was a 3rd generation painter. He was, I think, 34, 35 years old, been painting all of his life since high school. His dad was a painter, his grandfather was a painter, all solopreneurs, right? He joins our program And within, I think, 2 or 3 months, he had 5 full-time painters and they were producing $60K a month.
Well, and if you are that guy, I mean, just think about like, okay, you're spraying out a house. You need a guy to tape off windows.
Yeah.
You train him to tape off the windows. He tapes off all the windows and you spray. It's just like that. Like the more people you bring in, the easier your life becomes. Eventually, you're not even doing the spraying anymore. You've got a guy for the taping and a guy for the spraying. And you're like, yeah, good job, guys. You missed a spot. All right, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. That's like level 1 management, right? And then they do that a couple of times, and all of a sudden they can set the job up by themselves, and they can clean the job up by themselves, and then all of a sudden they can,
They can do the final walkthrough with the customer. Yep, they can pack up the tools. They can take them from job site to job site, or your runner can. Yeah. All right.
I think we've beat that dead fish.
Yep. All the fish.
Right.
And all,
We're right down to 15 here. 15. I messed up an estimate, and now I may lose money. Help. Hey, Brush Busters. Hi. I just landed an awesome project. I was really excited about it, but then as we got closer to production, reality really hit me. Turns out I totally underestimated the job. Completing at the price I quoted would basically mean working for free. I know I have to talk to the client when it comes to tough conversations, and I'm not the best. The thought of reaching out to the client makes me feel terrible. I don't know what to do. How to approach a situation without sounding like a complete idiot. I love this. This is so real.
This hits so close to home.
You want to jump in first?
I have to finish wiping my tears away before I get any further. No, I mean, well, the first thing I'd say is if you catch it before you start, you're in a much better position.
Mm-hmm.
Just like real talk, right? The worst is to realize this after the first couple of days or the first week. Because then you're already committed. You're already in. At this point, worst case scenario, James and Phoenix, if you listen to this before this project commences, it'd be a tough hit, but worst case, you could walk away. You could refund the deposit. You could walk away. I mean, it depends on the contract, depends how tricky they want to be. Some litigious people could try to sue you for performance in like a worst case, right? But most reasonable people, if it's before you've even started, you can say, hey, look, I made mistakes. Here's where I messed up, or here's what I didn't see. I underbid this project. It would be really detrimental for my company to take this project on at this price. I apologize. I can absolutely refund your full deposit. I can help you find another painter. We could also, depending on their attitude, right? It might just, if you have a great relationship, you might be able to say, hey, can we add? But if you're on a big project looking at zero profit, then the add-on that you would need to make it worth your while is probably bigger than what they would want to do if you're surprising them with this conversation, right? But worst case, right? That's an option a lot of times is you say, hey, like, let's not even start this if we know it's a problem, right? Like if you know you're driving off a cliff, first thing to do is stop driving before you go over the cliff, right? So I don't know, that's the first thing that comes to mind. And that doesn't always work that way, but that's the first thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. The thing is, like, hopefully you took a deposit, because when you book a job, you should take a deposit. And fall on your sword. Like take full responsibility. A lot of the times, when people try to skirt responsibility or shirk around it or not accept full responsibility, like that's something that really triggers people and pisses people off. Like, just take full responsibility. Hey, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the scope. I got it wrong. And because of that, I mispriced your project. And actually, I know the client who this is about, and we had a lengthy conversation about this in Slack. But it's just like, just tell them, like, hey, there's two options. So number one, I'm going to refund your deposit. Misquoted it. I missed a whole part of the scope. Like, totally my bad. I'm really apologize for delaying your project, but I'm going to refund your deposit. Or if you still want us to do your project, I can requote it with all the information I have now. If you're okay with that new price, we can still continue on our schedule.
Which, I mean, that's the best case, right? It just depends on like how this is coming up. A lot of times people will be frustrated, and your price might be competitive with whatever other bids they get, but they might be frustrated enough with you that it's like they don't want to work with you even at the same price. And if it gets to that point, I always tell people sometimes it's better to walk away than to try to salvage something, or they're never going to be happy with you.
True. It does also sound like this client is a little bit scared to having the conversation. right? And like, have you ever had that where you have a hard conversation coming up and you replay it in your mind 1,000 times, worst case scenarios, and then when you actually go to have the conversation, it's way better and way easier than you thought it was going to be? That
Yeah,
might
I mean,
be
that's what we were talking about earlier, right? That's what, like, just get to it, get it over with, eat the frog,
like
right?
90 set, like I said earlier, like 97% of clients are good and reasonable. Like maybe they'll
Totally.
be pissed because they're losing out on a great deal they thought they were going to get. But if you're just
Right.
honest and
Or
transparent,
yeah, they're not getting the great deal. It's messing up their schedule. You know, like today's August 1st, right? If I have a big 6-week project that was going to start and I was going to have it done in August into early September and everything was going to be hunky dory, and now on August 1st, you're going to tell me I have to find another contractor because I'm pissed off at you and I don't want to work with you anymore. And all the other good contractors are booked until October or November. Now my project schedule is delayed. They're going to probably be upset.
yeah.
Right. But like, they're going to be a lot more upset if you get in over your head on this project and then it screws up your business, screws up your cash flow. You can't even finish it. You know, does that opportunity cost for you? You're spending all your time there. You're painting. You're trying to get this thing done. They're already not happy. I mean, yeah. I don't want to scare people with the worst case scenario, right? But like, it's better to have a tough conversation than to have a tough 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So fall on your sword, don't do it. Don't start the project, offer to return the deposit, or don't even offer, just return the deposit and then say, hey, if you want me to rebid it, I can.
Yeah. And, apologetic and own it.
Yeah. Fun.
Ah, man.
Lots of nightmares there.
I had one literally a couple years ago that was like a really specialty thing on the seafront property. And it needed some specialty product and a lot of specialty prep that I wasn't quite clear on, like a lot more sanding and restoration than I had originally included. It was going to just get crushed on the job. And they were pretty upset with me because they were going to get a good deal. And they knew they were going to get a good deal. But I could tell from how they were going to be about it. I think I ran into a 3%er where they knew they were going to get a good deal and they were almost like preying on it, and they were going to like squeeze every little drop they could out of me. And so I was really glad that we caught it in time right before we ordered any of the specialty product, which was custom order, so you couldn't return it. Right. And yeah. And after seeing how they handled that interaction, like you said, 97% of people are great. And then that 3%, man, you're going to be really glad to avoid that.
Yeah. I mean, even if you had ordered the product and you're out the product and the deposit, and
still better to take your losses than
better
keep
to
going.
take your losses. Yeah. You'll find, the longer that you're in business, the more that every decision is just like, how much can I make and how much will I lose? And how can I minimize one, maximize the other?
Well, yeah, it's like what's worth it, right? Like, is it worth it to die on this sword, or is it worth it to cut bait and say, "Hey, sorry"? Because like there's a level at which like you have to finish jobs, right? Like even when you screw up, you have to finish. You have to like do your best. You have to within your reputation, right? And that's going to cost you money sometimes. So I'm not saying like just abandon everything. Oh, there's a problem, I'm out, right? Like you're going to have to do that, but in a situation like this where you haven't started yet, better not to start.
Yeah. I mean, one more thing I want to add actually is like, I've had some clients who have asked about this. And so I want to kind of add this on because this is a little bit of a corner case here where it's like, hey, I'm in the middle of a project and I noticed that the project is a little bit bigger than I thought it was. And my margins aren't quite going to be where they want to be. I want to be at a 50% gross margin or 48% gross margin. But on this project, it's looking like I'm going to be like a 38% or a 35% gross margin. Which should I do? Do I bill the client more or what? And so how I responded to that is like, all right, so when you had that last project where you had a 60% gross margin, did you give the client a discount? They're like, no. Why would you bill the client more? Like, how come you have to win on both sides and there's no risk for you? And so they're like, okay, yeah. So moral of that story is like, if you're doing a project and it just like is a little bit over your head and you are not going to win on it as much as you wanted to, then just finish it. Unless it's a case where you're like actually going to lose like tens of thousands of dollars and that like there was something different, they changed scope or something, like then you can maybe see if you can make a change order.
Yeah, I mean,
But
if you're talking the difference between 45% and 35%, like, sorry, bro, you got to take that one on the chin.
yeah,
You screwed up. Sorry. You still made 35%. I think what I got the sense from this last one, James in Phoenix, was like this was going to be, big job at like 0 to 5% gross margin.
Mhm.
Right. That's like where you got to really evaluate your options. If you're at like 45, you want to be at 45 and you're going to make 35 on this one because you underbid it a little, like you got to think about how much your like relationship with that client matters. Right. How much more valuable is it for your reputation, your Google reviews, your referrals, all that for you to be like, hey, it looks like I did underbid it a little bit. Don't worry about it. We're good. We're going to handle it. But yeah, it is a little bit bigger than I thought. So it's going to take another extra couple of days.
Yeah.
Think about how much like better that's going to resonate for your customer and your customer experience. Yeah. Like it's not, a lot of times it's not worth it. Now, if they're like a difficult customer and they're like, they deserve it. Sure. But if you have a good relationship, man, is like a couple percentage points on your bottom line really worth pissing someone off who could be a 5-star review and who could refer you to their, sorry?
Reputational risk.
Yeah. Right. But when I'm talking about walking away from a job before starting, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to make 0 or lose 10%.
And 3 weeks of my life.
Yeah. And all the opportunity costs. That's when you have to have tough conversations. If you're like a little bit under on your margin, but still positive, most of the time that's going to be a learning experience.
Yeah.
Do better on the next one.
Cost of education.
Cost of doing business.
Cool. I think we got time for one more here.
I'm jamming. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Client wants an email estimate, but I need a meeting. Hey, Brush Busters. I think I read the last one, but no, you did. I can't remember. Anyway, been contacted about a pretty big project, but the client wants a detailed estimate emailed to them straight away. No meeting beforehand. I'd really rather meet with the prospect ahead of time to ask them some more questions about the estimate before submitting my bid. How do I navigate the situation and convince them of the value of a quick meeting before sending the estimate? Don't want to seem pushy, but also want to showcase what sets me apart. Thanks a bunch. What do you think of that?
I think I'm going to have a more combative answer than you. It might not be your client then. Like if this is how they're going to be like right off the bat, like, hey, I personally, when I hear that, first thing I think is like, that's a really high expectation for me to give you everything you want without having a meeting and understanding the parameters of the project. Right. And they're setting the tone and this is how we're going to be. And that's like, okay. My first instinct, not my client.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. Yeah, like big dollars. It's so tough, right? We get these like, oh, it's gonna be a $30,000 job or a $40,000 and $80,000 job. And you get excited because it's big dollars, right? You're like, yeah. But like, as talked about previously on this podcast, those can be nightmares if you screw it up. And I always teach a very like relationship-based, consultative-based selling method of like understanding what they want, right? Yep. You're not selling the client, you're finding what they want and you're giving them that solution and then you're just pricing it out. The solution that you want and need for your project is going to be this much. And this is what the solution looks like, right? And if they're like not wanting to go through your process with you right off the bat, I don't care how big the job is. That's my first instinct.
I mean, I think for something like painting, there's just so many, it's not, and maybe it's an inexperienced property manager, or maybe it's just an old crusty GC or whatever the case is. There's so many like variances in scope and product. And I mean, I do get like, you get your product spec'd out and it's like, okay, all walls and all trims. Okay, I understand that. So maybe the scope and product can be like more or less, determined on the bid sheet or whatever it is, RFP. But yeah, ultimately you do want to meet with them. You want to talk to them. You want to see what their expectations are for like setup and takedown and cleanup and working on other trades and prep and all this stuff. And if you're not able to build any value on top of your price, then is it really a fight that you want to get into?
Right. It's just a bidding war then. I mean, it's almost like blind, like true commercial work, right? Is like, hey, here's the project. Here's all the specs, and the only thing you submit is your number because every little detail is like completely specced, right? And it's like, I don't know anybody in this program or in the contracting space that I do a lot of business with that really truly is competing to be the lowest price.
Yeah, I don't either.
So,
obviously also don't invest in coaching programs. So
probably not. But like, you know what I mean? So that's my first thing is like, don't waste your time, because I see people do this all the time. And I probably am reacting a little bit much because I have lingering scars of times I've put a bunch of work into a bid just for someone to be like, look at it for 2 seconds, be like, no, number's too high. And I never got to talk to them. I never got to really create value, connection, all those sorts of things. It was just a waste of my freaking time, right? Yep. We're way too busy, and we're way, there's too many things going on in life to waste time, even an hour or 2 hours or however stupid long on a bid where you don't even have a chance, and it's like a waste of your time in the first place.
So we got big project and detailed estimate. Like that could easily be 4 to 6 hours.
Right.
And to put in that, put in that much time without a meeting.
Right. You could be wrong. You could spec out all this and this and this, and they could be like, oh, actually, well, that's not what we wanted.
Yeah.
Right. So I would push back. I think, a business owner is not anyone's, lackey, or you could use some other words, not anyone's something that does things for them. Right. But you're a business owner, and you could say, hey, that's not how I do business. If you want me to bid on this project, you want to work with me, this is how I do it. This is what I would need. And you're going to gain a lot more business in the long run by sticking to your guns and standing up for yourself than rolling over and emailing bids to people that don't care about you and aren't respecting your time.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'd just push really hard to see if they'll do a meeting. And if they don't, then if they don't want to do a meeting, then say, sorry, like I can't accept this proposal because I'm not comfortable enough to bid on this project without talking about scope.
Even like a true commercial project, like I said, where they spec everything out and you just give a number, they'll do a job walk, scheduled job walk, and everyone who's bidding it is there. And it's a little awkward because you and all your competitors are there, right? And you're walking the job together and you're asking questions. But even then, even in that environment where it's a straight like number bid, like a blind bid, there's still a job walk. So if someone's being like this,
meeting with the GC or a meeting with the PM.
Yeah. So if someone's really pushing back on you like this, they either don't know what they're doing or they're a total asshole. Yeah. Or maybe both.
That's a good place to stop, I think, for today.
Oh, total assholes. Okay.
Total asshole. No, that's good. Yeah, I mean, so many fun, sometimes challenging, sometimes, more obvious day-to-day issues that we go through with contractors. And so to have this type of clarity and banter back and forth is pretty fun, I think.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Anytime like anyone else is on Brush Busters now, I'm mad.
Let's do it. Challenge.
No offense to anyone else. Shout out to Jesse. He's great.
And Gavin.
Yep.
Gavin's motorcycling across the country right now.
Yeah, good for him.
Yep.
I'm going to Burning Man in a couple weeks. Woo. Can't wait.
That'll be fun. Another one of my team member here at Painter Growth. He's in Germany right now, and he went to Ramstein last night.
Oh,
Ramstein.
Nice. Wait. Dude.
Yeah.
Lost. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like, you want to empower your team to be able to do the stuff that they want to do.
Right. That's the whole point of working, is to make money to have the life you want to have.
Yeah.
And so if you can create a space where people are living the life they want to live, you're going to have an awesome team. You're going to have great business. You're going to have community. You're going to have tribe.
Yeah. As the famous...
I want to go on vacations. So anyone I work with, they are going to want to go on vacations too. It makes sense.
As the late, great Zig Ziglar once said, probably many times said.
I know what you're going to say. I love this one.
If you want, you can have whatever you want in this life if you help enough other people get exactly what they want.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. That's where we should stop.
That is where we should stop. Thanks, Chris.
Good luck, Mike. Adios.
Peace.
Scaling up the game. Big projects, friend. Who you gonna trust? Brush Busters. We write your letters every day. Help you Contractors write us tales, paint dreams that never fails. Brush busters.